Hi everyone, it's Moa aka Swedish Whiskey Girl, and today we're going to do a little mini tasting of 5 different whiskies. So I was lucky enough to be sent one of these lovely Sherry Monster tasting sets by the guys at Master of Malt, because they are doing a really interesting tasting of sherry matured whiskies on Wednesday the 15th of April, so this coming Wednesday at 7:30. I think there's still some packs left, so hurry up and get one if you want to take part. I'm going to go through them quite quickly, just say a few things about each one, and then of course I'm going to save my drams for Wednesday as well. I'm very excited to hear more about them. We actually, just prior to filming this, did a blind tasting of them all, and the results were quite surprising, so I do expect it to be a really interesting tasting. And we're going to start with the darkness, which is a whiskey that it's 8 years old. It's a single malt from an undisclosed distillery, but it's been matured on sherry octave casks after a time in ex-bourbon. So those smaller casks of course means you get a lot of oak contact and a lot of flavour very quickly. So let's have a little nose on this. The first thing I get is a lovely sweetness, like a sugar sweetness along with some leathery notes. The sweetness feels very crisp to me. Like a crisp sweetness and leather. It's really nice, so let's have a taste. Yeah, I still get that leather note and a lovely kind of slow bitterness coming up on the palate. It's not too dry, not too spicy. Definitely had quite a lot of darker notes and more of a raisin sweetness now. Not such a crisp sweetness anymore, but more kind of a sticky one. Really nice, but we're going to move on to the next one and see if we can compare. So the next one is the Teeling Brabazon Series 1. Not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but these series are kind of focusing on different maturation types. So this whiskey here from the series 1 has been completely matured on different sherry casks, and they do give you a lot of information about their maturation online, so if you're curious, feel free to check that out. Let's have a nose on this. This one's really interesting on the nose. It gives me a lot of it reminds me of gin. It has like juniper notes and some liquorice. Yeah, quite a herby nose, like walking out in the woods, walking past a juniper bush, I would say. Slanjama. It's very foresty. Definitely has that juniper note, a slight spice, quite a savoury spice. It's also quite nutty, I would say, but still very, very fresh. It just feels very fresh in your mouth. Yeah, and a lovely, like, the spice kind of kicks in on the finish. Really nice. And next we have Glenfarclas 105. So this bad boy sits at 60%, so it's quite a big punch. I've actually been to Glenfarclas Distillery. It was the first one I visited when I went to Speyside, so I do have dear memories of this one. Also quite herby on this one, almost like the same kind of juniper note from the previous one, but also with a bit of kind of rosemary and like cooking spices if you're mixing together something to put on meat or on chicken. Slanjama. You get so much sweetness immediately, like a herby sweetness. So it's mixed with those kind of dry herb notes, like, along with the sweetness is the first thing that hits you. Has a slight bitterness and it's quite surprising in its taste. I always remember this as being quite dark, but now it feels more like fresh and herby to me as well. So next up is Glengoyne 21, which has been matured on European sherry casks for at least 21 years. And Glengoyne of course means Valley of the Geese. This one smells more like what I would expect when someone gives me a, if someone calls it a sherry bomb, but this is kind of what I would expect. It smells quite autumny to me, so I don't know, a bit of kind of stewed apples mixed with some hay. So those cereal notes along with really cooked fruits, like ripe cooked fruits. And it tastes very kind of warming, like a wrapping yourself in a blanket. If that was a taste, I think it would taste like that. If that was a smell, I think it would smell like this. Snanjava. Yeah, you kind of get the same feeling on the palate. Has that lovely, not too sweet, but it's still a lingering sweetness, like those kind of that cooked apple sweetness. It feels still very autumny. You get cereal notes coming through, and along that warming feeling is almost like an earthy feeling. So the palate, it just kind of lingers with you. Really nice. And I feel like I say that about everything, but they are truly really nice, all these drams. And finally, we are going to try the Scallywag 13. So this is of course a blended malt with whiskies from Speyside, made by the wonderful team at Douglas Lane. I just love this one on the nose. Also has those sherry notes that hits you straight away. It feels very like honey, mellow, autumny, hot toddy feeling. And it smells probably sweet, the sweetest one of these, but not sticky sweet, but more of that kind of warming sweetness. Slàinte. This one's quite dry when you try it, but it has notes of kind of darker berries. It's like blackberries perhaps, with a lovely cinnamon spice. It's like if you boil a hot toddy and you get rid of the water and you get something higher in strength, I think you would be left with something like this. It's just that kind of honey sweetness and the blackberries and the drying cinnamon spice all together, which makes it a really nice, well-rounded dram. Yes, I think they are all good, and I can't wait to hear what the guys at Master of Malt are going to say about them. I would probably say that if you want something quite leathery, something quite warming and a little bit thicker, then the Darkness 8-year-old is definitely something you should try. If you want something a little bit more interesting and something that you want to kind of explore a bit more, if you've tried a lot of other whiskies, then I would probably try the Teeling if you want those notes of licorice and juniper. Same with Glenfarclas 105. If you do like sherry matured whiskies and you want to try something that is really spectacular, Glenfarclas 105 is a good one to try. The Glengoyne, if you want a really classic sherry matured whiskey that is sure to keep you warm in the winter and which you will always go to and feel very happy that you went for it, Glengoyne 21. And if you just want something nice to have with chocolate, if you want something that's just such a treat after dinner, or something to kind of impress your friends with, then maybe Scallywag 13. I'd love to hear what you think of these 5 spectacular drams, of course, as always. Let me know in the comments below, and please let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Thank you very much. Slàinte.